Hey, this is Dr. Garver, Coach Garver, trying to give you some feedback of the sample analysis competition that we had last week. I've gotten through all of them, and I wanted to give you kind of feedback looking across all the classes. So first thing I want to say is big improvement, right? Like obviously Mary had a big impact. Some of the presentations were absolutely beautiful, gorgeous, and that it was outstanding. So from my standpoint, a huge jump up in quality of work and kind of taking care in our work. So that was thank you for that because it was awesome. Now I want to focus on how we can get better, and so we're going to kind of focus on some common mistakes. So if you didn't place, and in fact I would even say this, there were lots of presentations that looked beautiful that didn't place. And so what went wrong? It was probably one of these common mistakes. So some are more important than others, but I did want to show you these common mistakes to kind of like almost have a checklist to make sure you don't make these mistakes. So one of them too is you should always start off with a title slide. It's then, put your team name on there, your team number on there. Just all presentations should start off with this kind of this title slide. The biggest one is the second one there, which is not meeting objectives. So the objectives of this analysis was who's the sample, and does the sample look like the population? Most of us told me who the sample was, but many of us kind of forgot that key objective of, does the sample look like the population? You could have said yes, you could have said no, you could have said I'm not sure. I'd have been okay with anything, but you had to at least address that objective. So probably the number one thing that got teams booted out of the competition was that. I would say 1, 2 is that not being precise in our language. When you're using words, make sure those words are aligned with the objectives. Make sure the words are aligned with what the assignment is. And then we had issues with executive summaries. So some people forgot executive summaries. Remember that an executive summary is not an agenda of what you're going to cover. It is a 30-second elevator pitch of the results, looking across the results. Okay, and so that's what's really important. Remember too that you have to give me an answer for this. On my presentation, I don't give you words on my slide because I'm actually giving the executive summary over audio, but in your presentation you're not able to do that. So somewhere I needed an executive summary, whether it's written down, whether it's on text, but you have to give me an answer for that. Another mistake too was some people just forgot market research presentation. So you have to give me a research methodology about the data collection. Those have to be in there, otherwise you're going to get booted. I would say some people made mistakes on graphs. They just gave me the wrong answers. So somewhere along the lines we just put the wrong answers down. You have to have right answers. I'm going to show you something right now, numbers not showing up. This is an example of a graph, and I'm not sure what happened here. I don't know if it's the virtual lab, but instead of numbers showing up on this graph, I just see things like category and or percentage, but there's not actually a number. So you want to make sure that if maybe you send it to yourselves ahead of time, that actual numbers are showing up. While I got this graph on the line though, let's talk about other things. You really should have data labels, right? So in what data labels would give me the actual percentage on this graph, right? So 68% or 62%, whatever that is. And then down in the bottom, this was a really common mistakes. I don't think it probably got you booted from a competition, but it definitely was a markdown. We never want to have these color coding things. It just makes it too hard on the reader. So really what we want to do within that square, you want to put the percentage and then you want to put the text right in that area. You don't want to use these color coded boxes off to the side. Now that's an Excel default and it's a terrible one, and it just makes it very difficult on the reader. So we want to make sure that we don't do graphs in a way that kind of look like with these mistakes. Okay, so now we got graphing issues of consistencies in graphs. So if we're going to have percentages like I think most of these were, we should use the same decimal places, right? So I had one team that gave me 32%, and then the next slide it was, we'd be like 64.875, 3 decimal places. Show consistency with that, okay? Another graphing issue I thought is that people used 3D graphs, and from Presentation Zen and from my podcasts on graphing, 3D graphs are actually more difficult. They look kind of fancy, but They're very difficult to take in, and so we don't do those. And so I would suggest not having 3D graphs. Not many people did this, but some people just copied the entire table from JASP and put it on the file. And there's all kinds of numbers in there that we don't care about, right? We never want to put a JASP table in there. If we're going to put a data table in there, that's fine, but let's only put the information in there that they really need, right? So, and take out the stuff that they don't. And of course, we got to make that look nice as well. Yeah, and the other graphing issue there is the color code off to the side and again, I showed you in that previous graph not to do that. So, let's keep that. And then what, so what, and now what. So again, on my presentations, I give the what, the so what, and the now what. So I don't have text on my presentation, but I'm very explicit. Make sure you put put that information in the presentation. You have to give me that. That was kind of a common mistake that people made. They'd put what, so what, now what, but not ever answer those questions. You have to answer those questions. I would also say that you need to be careful on putting things in. Like we would put our interpretations in, but they were wrong, right? So remember, what is the highlight? The key findings. So what, is it good for us? Is it bad for us? What's your interpretation of those findings? And now what is where we talk about what actions we should take. The biggest confusion comes in what and so what. They seem to often be the same for many teams. Make sure you draw a distinction, right? So remember, what is the highlight? What are the key facts that you see? And then so what is give your interpretation of what those key facts mean to our business, mean to our company. I would say this too. Some people did what, so what, and now what all at the end. And as I go through these presentations, I don't think that's a good strategy to take. I think the best strategy is to give me a graph and then right after it, give me the what, so what, and then now what. And then finally, storytelling. Remember that there's a logical flow to good stories, and we need to have a good logical flow to this as well. And so the order that you put your graphs and charts in is important. So there's one team that I'm thinking, and they just had all the right stuff, but it was all mixed up, and there wasn't really a logical flow. Always pay attention to logical flow. Make it easy for your reader to focus and follow the story. So again, these are the common mistakes. So if you didn't place, there's probably a very good chance that you made one of these mistakes or a number of these mistakes. But let's be clear, the level of quality in the presentations was much, much better, and many of the presentations looked absolutely beautiful. So, and unfortunately, there were beautiful presentations that made common mistakes that got them booted out, but nonetheless, our presentation skills are going through the roof, so congratulations on that. So I look forward to seeing you in the next exciting episode of Marketing 450, and if you do want to go over your specific presentation with me, I'll be happy to point that out. But before we do that, what I would ask is that you would go through these and kind of double check your work to see if you made any of these mistakes first, and then come talk to me about it. So, all right, my friends, have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next class.